Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm Bill Say, and it's been a while since I've introduced new uh, content on this channel of mine. Makes me laugh a bit. But what a world it is! What a moment it is to be speaking and saying hello to you. I'm thinking about sitting here in the U.S. in California, Berkeley, California, a new Trump presidency. Yeah, but what I'd mm, what I'd like to focus on or begin with anyway is an emergent process. I was working on it this morning. Maybe I've been working on it all my life, or most of my life anyway. Something that I want to make a gesture here. Something that's wanted to like express from me, emerge from me. Um, I notice there's something about friendship and connection and being liked. Yeah. And then something else that comes in that says, no, not that, not that way, this way. To give a little bit more specifics, take a moment. Yeah, some part that says, don't take the time. Don't take the time. You lose people. But then if I lose you, okay, I lose you. But one of the practices that's been really helpful for me anyway, and for some people in some groups, is slowing down and taking time, noticing what is present, what's arising, what's emerging. So I'm going to do that a little bit right now. Yeah, notice that when I pause, I want to add a little bit more context. Um, yeah, frankly, I think we're in a tough spot. And some part of me laughs. Yeah, we are, I think, in a tough spot. Like, as a country, as a world. I mean, there's beautiful stuff that's happening, of course. But for example, that apparently something like a majority would elect this president in the U.S. For me, that's like deeply telling and troubling. Yeah, somebody who is very explicitly racist and sexist, transphobic, at least in rhetoric. Yeah, homophobic. Yeah, basically saying, I can do what I want, and enough of you will love that. I think that's frankly should be. I like to think that that should frighten enough people that that's happening here in this country, which has a big impact. It's already having a big impact in a few months around the world. But he of course, and what he represents and the systems that he's connected to, are far from alone. But back to this process, in case it's meaningful or some way helpful for you. I think for many of us, I'll say, guessing and my work with people and therapeutic and community and relationship processes of different sorts over the years, there's emergent stuff that doesn't quite get to manifest, doesn't really get expression, doesn't get enough support, doesn't get enough curiosity, doesn't get enough encouragement, doesn't get enough belief, gets stopped, gets criticized. Sometimes right at the beginning, right at its birth, its inception, there can be something that's just, no, not that. And then what are the implications for your gifts, for your creativity, for your beauty, for your way? Yeah. What are the implications of that? Especially if we consider a world where there's so much anti stuff, anti women and anti trans people and, anti people of color. Yeah. So much around conformity. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Sometimes conformity can be okay, keeps a society or a group together. But what does it limit? And so, in the hopes that I'm speaking to something that's meaningful for you, I wanted to talk a little bit about my emergent process at the risk that it'll be a little bit too self centering. Take a moment with that. Take a moment with that. And again, to make this intersection with our social political world, what are the implications for a stifled or impeded or blocked process? And I'm talking about naturally emergent life processes that can be emerging, say, in you or me, in the face of stuff that I personally would call horrifying for the future of the world and for children, for future generation, for breathing room, for our bodies, for really in a deep way, not some corporate speak, for like wellness, well-being in our bodies. Yeah. So in that hope, I wanted to describe a little bit about this emergent process that's been, it's been coming. In some ways, I've been very fortunate, very privileged even to have a voice. Like I teach in some different settings, and some people value my teachings, of course, and some people, of course, don't. Some people can't stand me, but that alone suggests that it hasn't been a completely stifled or blocked process of my own creativity. Like I have a book, yeah, no no small feat having a book. But I noticed that this morning when I was going deeply into process, I felt like there's something still very meaningful. Actually came up in a dream last night. There it is. There it is. The dream, big part of process work. Thanks. There's many kinds of ways of working with process, but here I'm making specific reference to a rough body of work that was founded in a sense, developed in many ways by Arnold Mindell and many of his friends and colleagues, and I guess by his enemies too, in some ways, by reactions to what he was suggesting. And to say it simply, imperfectly, I think it was his study of nature, how nature is arising in unintended and intended ways as a thing to, in a sense, bow to explore, to become curious about, that it has its own wisdom, so to speak. Those emergent processes, whether it comes up to illness, which is where he started, I believe, curiosity about his own illness process, and not just wanting to make it a problem, not just wanting to pathologize it, but to see what are the dreams embedded in something like a physical symptom. Yeah. Some basic stuff about process work and its origins, at least as I understand it. And then applying that kind of thinking, that kind of philosophy, that kind of curiosity, that kind of unfoldment process or practice rather in relationships, with individual and collective dreams, with organizational stuff, with community process. Yeah. Like, how is what, is emerging somewhat naturally, maybe even disturbingly, how is there something right about it and something vital in it? It's something that needs to be unpacked more. So here I'm thinking about the rise of what I would call, or what I see. I think there's plenty of people who know better than me, but who frame it as autocracy. Yeah, yeah, and a coordinated, as I understand it, my crude understanding of autocracy, kind of coordinated. It's not this sole actor kind of thing. No, it's like these guys, and it seems like it's mostly guys. Le Pen maybe comes to mind as someone else who's like, but I think she has some major legal problems and some blockages for her, thankfully, I would say. Yeah, but I digress. Or do I? I'm not sure. Maybe I'll pause here. Maybe I'll pause here. Mm, mm. Yeah, rumblings inside, something emerging even more. Yeah, through this dream. Let me share a little bit about the dream. It's a little spicy, a little edgy to talk about one's dreams in public, but let me do so. So, as I recall, the first thing that emerged in last night's dream was, yeah, I was taking a crap. I was going to the bathroom. Yeah, number two, the more serious bathroom business, so to speak. Yeah, but it was kind of like my shit was like not everywhere, but it was like getting around on the tiles, and I was like trying to clean it up. Oh, edgy to talk about. Yeah, yeah, trying to clean up that shit. Mhm. That's the first part of the dream. Second part of the dream, it's kind of like a facility, maybe a psych facility. I used to work in psychiatric facilities. Some good people in there. Good people locked up in there. Some good people doing the locking up or managing. Some not so good people. I was somewhere in between, probably. But anyway, I was in one of those facilities, and I was given some shampoo to wash my hair. But there was like a line on the container. It's like the suggestion was use this much. And so I put the container down in the shower. But there's also something about the product that don't get it mixed with water, don't dilute it. But then when I put it into I was trying to shampoo with this stuff, I noticed it didn't really lather. So that was the dream. So there's many, many ways to think about this dream, to interpret the dream, to make sense or no sense of a dream like this. But one one suggestion that comes from me from my teacher of many years who passed away a number of months ago, Arnold Mindell, was especially with dreams that are a little bit hard to approach. It's like to ask yourself. So I asked myself, what part of me is this dream meant or designed for? Hmm. I think one, it's meant for a part of me that's a bit horrified when I get too expressive or messy. And then so I want to clean it up. Mhm. But I don't know about you, but shit's very intense stuff. like the smell of it, it's not so easy to just like completely, do away with. So it makes me think about then about expression, like unintentional expression that maybe lingers, has a certain potency, has a certain weight or valence. Yeah. Yeah. So that comes to me. Again, arguable, but it's my dream. Maybe it's partly your dream now too, because I'm sharing it with you. But then the second part of the dream and the shampoo, the measuredness, the monitoring, not wanting to dilute it. And here I really jumped because I have deep stuff around hair, deep stuff, historic stuff with my body and my father. So here, it's quite vulnerable, but I'll share it. Hope you don't get too attacky on me. I was about 13. My hair started getting kind of long. Yeah. It's like growing up in Southern California. One of the very few Asian kids, I'll say that. We had newly moved. Well, we were there, having moved from Long Beach, California, to this other city, Westminster, Orange County, California. A couple of my friends said, "Hey, wow, Bill, your hair's getting pretty long." They kind of, I think they were admiring. They said, "Wow, it's like the implication or the stated thing was, your parents let you have long hair. That's so cool." Something like that. And I think I felt some pride. It's like, yeah, that's something. And the very day, father, I didn't, nothing said. Father said, "We're taking you to the barber college." The cheap, economical, and I'm tempted to use the word fascistic move here. Cut my son's hair. And here I have to both question and honor my father. My father, Korean American, he grew up in very harsh conditions as a boy. Here I want to hopefully make a meaningful digression. His father was brutal, drank and beat him. Yeah, beat him. Once, there was a Korean custom. You wet the bed as a child, and apparently you were then sent out with a urine-soaked bed sheets into the village to get some kind of, some coins or something like that, and then beaten. That was the that was the custom, the cultural custom to address bedwetting. And his father would come home sometimes drunken and beat everyone. So imagine this. My father was about 7, and he said, "Okay, enough." He ran away from home. Yeah, imagine that. He got returned, but then get this, he did it again permanently. So you consider like Japanese occupied Korea. I'm half Japanese and half Korean. I'll speak more about this in this podcast. But so imagine your country is being colonized by another force, another power. Very uncertain. And as a boy, maybe you have some faint or maybe not so faint sense of that. But your own condition is so brutal that you said, I'm young, but I'll, I'll take my life in my own hands. Thank you very much. And run away successfully, forever, permanently. For that alone, I have to give great, like I bow to my father for that kind of determination, courage. I don't know what it took. I wish I would have actually been able to talk to him more about this. He wrote a short autobiography that I think for this purpose of this podcast, I should review and maybe share some of it with you. I shared a little bit of it in my book on the life myth, but so that's my father. A little bit about him. Brutal. And then let me just this is an important element to give backstory to this act of him taking me to the barber college, right? So after managing in some fashion or another to survive on the streets of Korea, getting little babysitting jobs, which I'll say more about in another moment. He was taken, Shanghai, drugged, fed with drugged food and taken overseas to work as a slave in Japan, in a glass factory. You can imagine that, yeah? You're, I'm pausing here because I'm thinking about in this country the deep history and actually ongoing legacy, the ongoing relationship with the involuntary labor, the owning of bodies. Yeah, maybe I can go more into that in a later podcast. But I wanted to at least acknowledge in the US the deep history of the enslavement of African people, that we built this country on the backs of their labor, on the backs of their bodies. And in a way, we continue to do so. I'll say we, because I want to implicate myself in that ongoing horror, travesty. You know, I have to do more research. There's a prison in the South. It's a famous prison. I should research this more. That prison is actually built on a plantation. So what historically took place on that plantation is arguably, actually, I don't know if it's that arguable, is taking place with, sanction, state sanction in this current day on those bodies, mostly black males, is my understanding. But I will do more research about that prison. It's a horrifying place for its present day realities and for its past and for what it means to continue those conditions on that land with that history, with state approval, sanction, structure, rubber stamping. But I digress a bit. So that's a little bit of my father's background about one of the more brutal childhoods that you can imagine, I think. Beaten, abused in many different ways. Abused. Like if you think about some of the implications of what abuse means, like the power over whether it's intentional or unintentional harm, traumatizing, imposition, annihilation was so, I want to say, no regard for the one that you're doing it to. So that's my father. A little bit of him anyway. I'll say more about him later. So in that moment, he was already a kind of a terrifying figure for me. He said, "Time to get a haircut. You're going." And there was no argument there. So that's the backstory for my thing with hair, my ongoing thing with hair. And then it coming up in my dream last night, the shampooing, the monitoring, this process. But what it evokes here, and this is the reason why after a few years of not posting, I wanted to post and express a bit. Even if it's rough, something emerging here. But it's something emerging, say, call it a young boy's hair, a little bit of pride, something naturally growing. And there's some social connection there. It's like, friends, something to be liked about, something to be appreciated about, and then getting cut down. So back to the general point about the natural expressions, the natural gifts that could be emerging, say, in you, and what curbs them, questions them, criticizes them, maybe even right when they're emerging. And maybe you do it to yourself, maybe with help. Maybe there's, say, help with family or society that puts it down immediately, questions it, doubts it. No, not that. And this is the beauty, one of the beauties of process work. And there's many things about process work that I frankly criticize, and I'll talk more about that in this podcast. But one of the beauties is, what is this emergent something? What is it? And letting it speak for itself without the imposition. And this is some of the beauty, but also the failings of some of process work at times, the failings to really let it speak for itself and unfold and start to breathe and manifest. Thanks. I see there was a thumb up for that. So someone listening. It tickles me. Thank you so much. A little edgy, some of this stuff to talk about. But again, I want to say some of this is emerging, and some of the, for me, the meaning for is emerging. This voice, this emergent process, and wanting to talk about it is happening. I think in a critical time where if you, for example, care or are concerned or are frightened about what's happening in your country, in your world, the world that you are part of, whether you're more relatively included in this world or society or organization or family, or whether you're relatively excluded, marginalized, put down. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but maybe there's something right about that too. Going into being lost a bit. Having a bit of a voice and having your process emerge in the face of what may be concerning or perhaps even terrifying in the world, which includes political leaders who, corporate leaders, community leaders, family leaders who sometimes act in very questionable ways. So if you're concerned at any of those levels, maybe it's something to be said about encouraging your process, whether it's voiced or not, but there's something that may be responding in you, or I'll say us. There's a response. There's maybe an indignation. Maybe there's fear. Maybe there's anger. Maybe there's frozenness. Maybe it evokes trauma, etc. But believing in whatever response you have that says, "Hmm." And of course, maybe it's already implied here, more than implied. I have a certain political leaning. I think it's dead wrong. I'm going to say it this way. It's dead wrong. Dead fucking wrong what's happening in this country, in the United States. It's so anti against so many people, against immigrant people, trans people, people of color, women, people who don't conform, people who aren't wealthy or white. That's a lot of fucking people. And I know, yeah, people say that's complicated. I want to err on the side of not that fucking complicated. That if you believe in people, and here I mean a diversity of people, I want to say, this is my political stance here, you should be horrified and deeply alarmed about what's happening in this country, for example, as one example. One example, it's only one example. But the US, unfortunately, has so much impact around the world, and it already is. Take a moment. So I'm not neutral here, not professing neutrality. Take a moment. Hmm. And you, yeah, you may have very different views. Mhm. But here's the part about community, as far as I'm concerned, is where is the space? How can we co-create the conditions where there's breathing room for you and for me? Because when there's conditions that are created that really exclude people, put people down, trample on them and on their rights, that's not community. And that, I want to say, it's not sustainable either. It may win, quote unquote, in the short term. And I think that's the bid here, that this is going to, these measures, for example, that are happening at the highest levels in the US with tech and corporate cooperation, is going to be a win in terms of power and money. Yeah, yeah, okay, I get that. But if you're thinking about a future, if you're thinking about children, if you're thinking about human needs to be treated well, to be supported, if you think about the natural world and being supported, being cooperated with, as if plants and animals like also deserve that kind of cooperative alliance, then I think, in my view, it's dead wrong what these guys, and it's mostly guys, are doing. Dead wrong. And in that way, God, I hope they fail quickly. Go Warriors, by the way. Golden State Warriors. Let me give a little shout out to Golden State Warriors. Completely turned around their season with the acquisition of Jimmy Butler. Fuck yeah. Oh yeah. Fuck yeah. Whoa. I was thinking, I mean, I didn't know that much about Jimmy Butler, but I was thinking, it's going to be another basketball diva, and how's that going to sync with the team? As far as I can tell, that guy is so selfless. He does for the team. And maybe that's the larger point here. What does for the team? And the team being the plants and animals and the children, and especially the children of the future. What does for that team? And that's where I say, go Warriors. Because I think, I don't know him, of course, but like Steph Curry, what a person. I mean, the amount of, like, touches me, the amount of philanthropy, the lifting up that he does, like in Oakland with his project there. What's it? Eat, pray, eat. I don't know. He lifts up kids. Yeah. He feeds them, gives them access to books and inspiration. Go Warriors. I am so fortunate. My son is flying in tomorrow. And a couple hours later, I'm going to take him to see the Warriors play the Houston Rockets. They're a tough team. Now, we've beaten them last few times, but they're a tough team. So we're going to have to be firing on all cylinders if we're going to do okay with them, to do well with them. But I feel like there's a generational talents here. Like Steph Curry shot 52 points the other day. And these are with people smothering him, trying to stop him. It's like, couldn't be stopped. Couldn't be stopped. 52 points. Unheard of. I mean, it's like crazy. But then it's just not the basketball. He's a basketball genius, but he's also a community genius, I think. I have to get to know his organization more, frankly. Bow down and study what they're doing. Okay, his giving back. Like it's like using his platform, using his rank, and I'll talk more about rank and the use of rank for good and ill, because we all have one of the vital teachings of Arnold Mandela is about the rank, the complexity of rank, and what an influential. I mean, it is about influence basically, but it's also about our awareness of it and how we use it. And again, the study of it and how it's used well, even in subtle ways, and how it's used badly, sometimes unintentionally, sometimes intentfully. So I'll talk more about that in this podcast. Ah. So I'm obviously just rambling around here. Something emerging, something that wants to cut it off. But one of the things that came to me this morning is it's about community. I don't know exactly what is emergent for me, but I feel like there's a little bit more urgency. I'm getting older. There's this very uh, alarming national, global situation. We're at a precipice. I think that's fair to say. We're at a precipice. And though part of me was like starting to retire a little bit, collect Social Security, I think part of me was like succumbing to ageism, racism, saying, forget it. I'm done. But apparently I'm not done. Something's arising. Maybe you're not done either. Maybe you already are expressing. Maybe the deepest stuff from you is already getting to live and breathe and express and manifest, make a difference, hopefully in a positive way. But maybe you, like me, it's a it's a process that needs more inquiry. Like, what are those deep, natural things, mysterious things, often not really well understood things that are emerging, that are just starting to arise? I'm interested in that and how those emergent processes may also be in some way a response to your family situation, your organizational situation, your community situation, this societal or global situation. How might it be that? That's some of what I want to explore in this podcast. Hmm. Okay, that's enough. Let's see. Let me take a moment. Maybe you can take a moment too. Taking a moment, not a bad practice. It's one of the things I want to offer is practices that, if they're helpful for you, try them out. Taking a moment. That's one practice. Slowing down, pausing, feeling, breathing. Take a moment. Yeah, yeah. I notice I pause. I feel good. Something's coming. And if there's some things that are helpful for you, great. Listen in. Maybe it's inspires you to try out some things. I'll be offering some different process work theory and practice stuff. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right. Okay. Bye now. Oh, I'm learning Japanese. It's such an interesting language. It's so interesting. Yeah. This might be too informal for our Japanese friends, if any are listening. But I want to say jamata. Jamata. I think it's a little bit like see ya. I think. So that might be a little bit too informal. More formal, as I understand it, would be sayonara. And here I know my pronunciation's kind of warui desu. Warui means bad. Warui desu. Nihongo o benkyou shimasu. I'm studying Japanese. Demo, watashi no nihongo wa, my Japanese, hmm, not so good. I'm not sure how to say that yet. I'll say janai desu. Not good. Anyway, but bowing to my process of learning Japanese, my Japanese teacher, Nishikawa Sensei, the Japanese relatives that I'm going to be seeing next month with my son. We are so fortunate. We're going to Japan and visiting with relatives. I think we're hoping to go see the SoftBank Hawks. They're a great baseball team. It was such an amazing team to see play. Sports is going to be part of this thing. I'm a new person with regard to sports, but it's like, wow, that we went last year, Gabe and I, my son, we went last year to see the SoftBank Hawks. Can't remember the team they're playing. It was such a thrilling and such a positive, such a thrilling experience. I was so happy that our relatives took us to see them. It's like, oh my gosh, it's really amazing. Uh, Sugoi desu, sugoi. Amazing. Yes. taksan tanoshi desu. Taksan sugoi desu. Yeah, very amazing. Okay. Okay. Bye for now, everyone. Take care. Hope you're well. Maybe I'll see you next time. Community work. Yeah, let's get into what does it mean to create a more wholesome community, a more inclusive community, a more caring community that doesn't like ignore shit, right? This isn't just like play out the same stuff. I mean, yeah, let's play out some of the same stuff, but let's work with that same stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested in all that. Berkeley coming, Berkeley workshop coming, Tokyo workshop actually. Workshop happening in Tokyo. I think it's May 11th. Half day workshop on the life myth. If you're in Tokyo and like to check it out, you can email me at bill@billsay.com. I'll hook you up to Kaori-san, my dear collaborator and organizer of the workshop, and then also for our other friend Shizuko-san, who's offering a workshop in the afternoon on mandalas, creating mandalas. Wow. Okay, some things there. Take good care, everyone. Bye for now.